All right, I think we're recording. All right, so hi everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Percussion Studio Alumni Talks. This week we have Michael Morales. Give it up for Mike. Um, he's joining us live from Nashville tonight from one of our prior people's studios, Dan Ainspan. He's in the background somewhere.
Yeah, show him here.
Yeah, he's back there. Um, Oh, hang on. We got more people joining. All right. So yeah, Mike, thanks for coming. Really appreciate it, man. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, cool. So how's it going? How you been?
It's been crazy. I started my day at 3:30 this morning. I had a 6 a.m. flight with a connecting flight in South Carolina, or I'm sorry, North Carolina, and we were on the runway, and one of our engines stopped working. So I didn't get to go meet with one of my clients in person. So, just had to be flexible and move around that. And then I just finally got here, did my work, connected with my company, and just, I'm here, like, God knows how many hours later, but that's the beautiful part of the music industry. Hurry up and wait, as we all know, and the excitement of traveling. So it's been an interesting day, but I have a really cool month set up. I'll be here for a few weeks, which is pretty cool. Have a lot of friends out here, but my girlfriend's out here too. So it helps me be able to stay with the community out here and do some in-person work. So I'm really excited.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm sorry about the plane, but I'm happy you're here.
Thank you. And I think that's really awesome. You called me a few months ago, pitching this idea to me. And I've always had a great relationship, guys. Frank is amazing. Just know that he's really invested in what the students do on campus and how he can deliver. I was once the Drumline president, and he, Dan was as well. And Frank is just a great person to keep that going. And I just want to give a shout out to everybody here. That's both, instructors or students. I mean, you guys have really, really set, your own path and history here. I mean, during the pandemic, none of us could really relate to what any of you were going through, and really made it your own. I remember talking to Julie a few months ago on the phone, and she was telling me she was doing a certificate for online teaching, and I had no idea that even existed. But for me, I'm a huge hands-on learner, so I can't imagine what you guys have really had to endure. But it's, you've all really stayed this course, and I really commend you all for that.
Yeah, and thank you for the kind words, man. I really appreciate that. So let's get started. So I want to hear, about your time at Oneonta. Did you come in, freshman year? What was that like? What were some clubs you were a part of? What kind of stuff did you do in the music department? Classes you took that were pretty significant, professors you loved, stuff like that.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I got to Oneonta. I'm a first generation college student, so I didn't exactly have that example in my family to go off of. So it was a lot of exploring. I did, I was a part of the EOP program, which is really great. But I really found myself in the percussion studio. My freshman year, I was the youngest. So I was the baby of the family. So it was really something to get accustomed to, really learning what that meant to work hard as a musician. And, at first I really wanted to pursue a career musicianship. And then I just realized that was, I wanted to work with musicians. So that wasn't exactly for me. So I found a different route to do that. But my sophomore year, when Dr. Licata went on sabbatical, myself, Dan Ainspan, and Chris Oriani, we were all I guess the main source of recruitment for the time for the Dragon Rolls Drumline and the percussion studio, really just went and ran with what we could to make up for our professor, doing what she does best, going out and just learning. And we really found a sense of community there. And I thought that was really awesome, and where lifelong friendships had grown. The groups had never been that close before. And I think that's really awesome. And you see that in a lot of the performance groups now, Pitch Slapped, Hooked on Tonics, and I think that's really awesome. So that's where I really found my cult, I'll call them. But so I was a part of the percussion studio for a long time, probably a little longer than I should have been. But it helped me go on to be a part of Drum Corps International, where I did 2 tours. And Drum Corps International is like the major league of marching music, and it's very competitive. I had to do a huge audition process where I travel once a month down to Philadelphia. and just compete against some of like the best in the area. And the amount of community support I got from Oneonta and my peers was really awesome. But I think the place where I really grew professionally the most was what is, I think it's like OAC now, but it was the Student Association Activities Council. And that's where I started to run the concerts. My first time running a concert, that's when I really realized like what I wanted to do. My heart will always be in live music, but my first concert I ran or worked was Time Flies in Mayday Parade. I actually started on the music industry club side of it as just, you know, helping hand, and then I jumped in with the Student Association Activities Council, kept coming back, and I eventually ended up becoming the performing arts chair. Then I became the logistics coordinator, and I kept really pushing, coming back, networking, representing myself, my brand really well, and I ended up doing the last two concerts during my time there as the concert chair, where I got to head the Jesse McCartney concert and Kid Ink, along with other concerts. I was also a Hunt Union event associate, where we took that position from being just an event tech and actually made it into an intern. You know, I did some internships at Foothills Performing Arts Center. Yeah, I mean, I was around a lot. I think I'll be honest with you all, I focused more on, and Julia will test this, focused more on my involvement and networking on campus than I did my actual academics. But that's the great thing about Oneonta. And I think, you know, looking at other schools, you guys are very fortunate to have is the opportunity to get exposure there and have real life experiences. And I, you know, unfortunately, that's something you guys are losing out right now in the pandemic. But in normal, you know, normal times, there's a lot of opportunities there, and I know they're doing their best to help you guys work through that.
Yeah, well said. Very, very well said. So you graduated Oneonta in 2017, right?
Yeah.
So right after, graduation, what happened? Like, what did you do, and how did you get to where you are now with AGD?
So here's where I'm going to be so honest. I mean, I consider my Oneonta future alumni and current alumni base a place where we all need to help each other out and be honest. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I did not do well leaving. I was so wrapped up in what I had going on where I didn't plan that next step. And that is something anytime I talk to any college student or anybody that's wrapping up a certain gig, where you're going to get the end of that gig, you should already know what the next step is or planning that. And that's something I think, you know, really looking forward and moving forward, you know, we should always be thinking ahead. And it's very easy to get wrapped up in what we're doing, especially when there's like emotions driven in it, something you really like. For me, it was O-Fest. I was doing so well in O-Fest. You know, I had, you know, a lot of publicity around it from the city, a lot of great relationship building, but I didn't take that next step. So for me, I worked some gigs. I went home. I went to, you know, a lot of us have this thing where you'll go home and you'll go back to real life where the things that you could escape from at college now become real again. And I had to deal with some stuff in my personal life. So I took a part-time job while I was also gigging. I was gigging as a part-time musician a little bit, picking up some gigs, you know, just to help me get by. And then, you know, some production assistant work, which if you're always looking for something to do, I recommend that anybody do production assistant work. If you know, still finding your way, it's really quick, easy cash, great networking opportunities. You work in a variety of places. I mean, you never know who you'll see. You know, I've met and made a lot of good relationships there, but I actually ended up working at Enterprise Rent-A-Car. And then I had a life event that just really like took me for a loop. And I was like, you know what, I want to go back to school. And I was working at Enterprise Rent-A-Car for a little while, and I kept meeting like hip hop artists that were like getting screwed on deals. And there was like somebody I would just take a car to the car wash, and he'd like, you know, just talk my ear off. And I had a degree in music, and where it's like, you know, I wasn't really that big into management at that time, but like the curriculum we all have, you know, we know like, okay, no, you got screwed on that deal, like where we're able to have those conversations. So I started getting interested, and I actually never really wanted to work in hip hop. And I just started doing some consulting, and realistically, I just started doing some relationship building. I wasn't charging a little bit because I also wanted to learn myself. And then I decided I was going to go back and do my master's in entrepreneurship in the arts. I did that at SUNY Purchase. And then just once the pandemic hit, I only got 2 of 3 semesters done of that, where I had to just come back and focus on some stuff in my own life. So I never got to actually finish. But I mean, for me though, that was where I had my reawakening in life, where I started networking. You know, unfortunately went into more student debt, but I lit that fire into my butt where it's like, I made so many more connections. And I think something to really take away, and that's something I'm going on with here, is, some of you are about to graduate, and that's amazing. Like, congratulations, you all, like, it's not easy to get a 4-year degree. Sometimes 5. I did 5, but keep learning afterwards. The world is constantly changing. There's so many people around you can keep learning from. I mean, keep in contact with professors, take that next step. I mean, for me right now, my girlfriend and I are doing the Music Industry Essentials course, our program at NYU. It's online, but it's just our way of staying up to date. And that's what I really liked, is like, reading, realizing like no matter where you go in music, you don't just have to have a music education to benefit you. There's so many parts in business that can help you, and networking as well. And that's why years later, I realized, some of us, we go to our business courses, economics, management, we're like, oh, why are we taking this? But it actually does really apply in the future, especially if you want to go into business for yourself, or manage a brand or an artist. So I guess to answer your question, I did that. And then once the pandemic hit, I started networking like crazy. I was on Zoom calls every day, DMing people every day. That's actually ironically how I met my girlfriend, because we were just networking back and forth, purely networking intentions, and we just hit it off. But really, anything I could do, I was really connecting people that needed help with things, and that's where I really found my strength was helping people network, particularly singer-songwriters. I've put together some good collaborations, and I'm trying to figure out a way to profit from that still. But I know it's a strength of mine, being able to connect people who have needs, but also have something to offer. And that's really something I've learned, is the who do you know who concept. And that's like somebody I met, just was one of my enterprise customers who worked in the music industry. He was like, the person you're talking to might not be able to offer you this internship you need, but you should find out who do they know who needs that. And that's something really valuable I learned. So I did a lot of my networking in Facebook groups, and then I saw this this posting by the COO at AGD about looking for a new artist coach and day-to-day manager, and I'm like, this fits what I know how to do. So I reached out. I ended up getting an interview. I put together a really good application. Guys, you're really utilize the CDC, Career Development Center, and your interview class. It's super helpful. Then I wrote my thank you email, and I actually got told by my director the other day, like when we were all in a staff meeting, she's like, you are all here because you all wrote a thank you email. If you didn't write a thank you email, you would have never gotten a follow-up. And I think that's really important, whether you're pitching something or just doing your own, just repping your own brand, is writing that thank you email, making it person to person. And because I kept good relationships with the artists I'd worked with in the past in consulting, I was able to call on them, and I actually put together a testimonial, just speaking for my work ethic, and how I was able to help them in their own career. And that's why I really think like keeping relationships with people are super big, never burning any bridges. I mean, I've definitely been screwed at this point, and that's going to happen to everybody along the way, where a deal goes south. I definitely had to enforce some legalities, but that artist and I still kept a very good connection and didn't burn any bridges. And she was actually really helpful in being a part of that. So I think like just remembering to keep those relationships is really big.
Yeah. So I'm curious. So you work with AGD now. So I know you just mentioned this. Can you go more in depth about what your current position like entails? Like, what do you do?
So I'm what's called an artist coach and day-to-day manager. My primary function at the company is to take on a roster of artists that have different campaigns they're leading. And it's mostly based around releasing music. So today I just had a meeting with a hip hop artist that we're doing a 3-song project with. And I don't know if you guys can hear the drum set. I'm in a studio here. And we're figuring out, like, we have what's called the 5 pillars we work from: publicity, marketing, branding, performance, and operations. And we really work through what's going to make the best campaign. The program's called 0 to 60 versus 0 to 100. So we take on a lot of artists that are at these levels of up and coming, and then we figure out how to get them to that next place. And they do a lot of the work. It's like coaching. I mean, we do have, if they do want to pay the extra fee, to have our service agents who are entry level positions to do it. They can take on some of the pillars, but we create these campaigns that go for about 6 to 9 months, and we're realistically just getting their name out there. And no one campaign is ever the same. And that's something I, knew, remembering myself, is like, okay, I'm like, how do you not have a link tree in your bio? I'm like, okay, that's different. But you have a music video. It's confusing, But you know, it's interesting realizing, you know, when you have a degree in music business versus the musicians, it's such a different form of education. And that's why we, anybody in the music industry program, is very significant to artists that might only have music degrees, because I mean, we're able to help them protect themselves. So I do these campaigns with them. I have about 20 artists that'll be on my roster. The company has realized my abilities in networking, so I'm actually spearheading our Clubhouse rooms right now, where I'm bringing more people in. And if you're not on Clubhouse, we can talk about it more. Everyone who's in music needs to be on Clubhouse. It is such an amazing platform. I mean, I was in a room with Hunter Hayes a few weeks ago, just by accident, and it's such a good opportunity to talk to people like that you wouldn't normally have access to. I mean, I even see some of our old concert agents from OFest that I'm able to stay in contact with, and you know, just building your network is super huge in there. And people are on all hours of the night. It's really cool. It's obviously not meant just for music business, but music business is blooming in there. So that's another thing I'm doing. I mean, we do a lot of outreach. So I do a lot of, you know, networking with artists out in public. While I try to keep it COVID safe at the same time, you know, coming out to Nashville, it's a way different ball game than doing it in New York. I'm very safe with it though, just in case anybody's wondering. But I'm also going to be publishing a curated playlist I made called Artists I've Met 2021. But what I also do is I offer them free strategy sessions, and that is something we do company wide. And it's because we want to be it's called social entrepreneurship. So where we actually want to be active in the music community. So I know there's a few musicians in the room right now, you know, not to call them out, but I know Luke has a really good music career he's developing. And if Luke ever came to me and he's like, "Hey, I want to do a strategy session with you," I'd be like, "Hey, let's go. Let's, you know, what do you have going on? Any questions you got?" And really work through what they have going on. Just because, you know, we all started at this place where artists weren't always ready for management, but did need help, and that's where the coaching comes in. So I meet with close to 15 different people a week. You know, it can be mentally taxing to spend, you know, a lot of them, my coaching clients, I spend an hour and 15 minutes with each. And then my strategy session clients, I do 45 minutes. So I always got to be on, but I always got to be active because I'm representing a brand and myself. And I'm also, you know, helping somebody. And for me, it plays a personal sense because I was a musician first. So I understand the dreams of being a musician and what goes behind it.
Yeah. Also, to everybody watching, if you guys have any questions whatsoever for Mike, just drop them in the chat. Luke says thank you.
Gotcha, Luke.
So I know we've been touching on this a lot already, and networking, it's huge. So what tips, you know, and tricks can you give, you know, for networking in general, like, like, you know, basic how to network for dummies, you know, if you will.
I, I mean, sometimes it's really just going back to the basics, just always being prepared, staying up to date with the latest networking trends. Like, you know, you don't always need to be cutting edge, but also be on the lookout out for what is updated. There's this thing called Popple that my company is getting into soon. I might just get one on my own because I'm so excited for it. It's actually this ring you put on the back of your phone, and it's similar to a QR code. Somebody holds their phone up to it, gives all their information how to connect with you. I really recommend that. I'm looking to get one myself. I'm super excited for that. But really just remembering to rep yourself as a brand. Like if you're gonna go to a place where you know there's gonna be music and you don't know who's gonna be there, don't go stumbling drunk. Don't get me wrong, enjoy yourself, have a drink. But I mean, for my company, and this is something I always pride myself on for, like, we're not allowed to be like intoxicated in public if we're in any music setting because we're repping the brand we work with. But you want to be able to function because you never know who's going to be where. And finding that balance where you're repping your brand, like you all need to look at yourselves as your own brand. Whether you're looking to go into live music, copyright, radio, you are still your own form of business. You are your own CEO of your own whatever you want to do, and people catch on to that. So how you react, how you present yourself on social media is huge, and people see that. I think never being too pushy in a networking situation, like, obviously a lot of you are going to want internships right now. Don't let that be the first thing you drive with someone. Building rapport is super important. For me, anytime I network with somebody, I take notes. I'm kind of creepy about it, but it helps me when I write an email. I'm like, "Hey, Brandon, how was vacation? That's super cool. You went down to the Keys." So I actually, for myself and both my artists I work with, we all have a weekly task where we have to do some form of networking. We have to meet somebody new every week. And there's a note section in it. And I always tell them it's really important to fill that out to build that rapport. So you don't want to feel like you're just talking to somebody. Like, a lot about the music industry is being a good hang and just being personable. And if you can find that happy medium, I think that's a good way to um, network for sure.
Sorry, I couldn't. My mouse was not cooperating there. Um, yeah, so networking is huge, and honestly, I don't think I mean, the notes thing. When you just say it, yeah, it may sound creepy, but I think that's honestly, a good thing, because somebody may be like, oh yeah, vacation. Thanks for asking about that. Like, they'll notice the small things, and I think that's huge, and it goes a long way for sure.
It is completely okay to stalk somebody you're networking with. Like, I'll be honest, check out their LinkedIn, see who they're connected with. Go on their Instagram. Like, if you're looking for a job, I mean, like, don't hold anything back, but that's your internal work. Put that out there. You're doing that. Even Facebook. I mean, um, but I think like it all starts where you guys are now. Like, start networking now. Like, seniors become friends with the freshmen. Freshmen become friends with seniors. Obviously, everybody in between the same thing. But I mean, for all you know, one day, seniors, you might be asking that freshman for a job. Freshman, you might be getting out of college looking for an internship, but that senior's already made it up in that company. So, I mean, really valuing who's around you and building those relationships now in your own form of networking is huge. I'll be honest. Look at your competition. Like, let's be real. There's a lot of people that we sometimes butt heads with in good ways on campus. But I think a great example that comes to mind is someone called Sam Wild. He was a year older than me. We were always very competitive in the most friendly ways in the activities council. But we always both fought for the concert chair position. But we always showed up to each other's events. We're always each other's right hand man and respected what each other did. And I mean, I could have been like, oh, screw you, I want this position. Let me like backstab you, like you unfortunately see in the music industry. But we kept a really good rapport. And I actually, when I went to interview for AGD, I went and saw that Sam was mutual friends with both the director that emailed me and then the owner of the company. And I was like, oh, and Sam's out in Nashville now. We're supposed to be meeting up at some point soon. So I had my first interview. And my second interview, I'm, picking my girlfriend up from the airport, driving to the city, get COVID tests, all that stuff. And I get a phone call from Sam. I'm like, he knows something. And he never told me we were supposed to connect. We didn't end up connecting. But from what I understand, he put in a really good word for me. And that's why I think like building these relationships now are huge. And whether it be like, somebody that's graduated before you or after you never know when you're going to need that help. So just looking at it as resources around you. I mean, I met Bailey, who is in this chat right now, at Starbucks, and her and I have been connected since when I went up for a networking event. And I got to see how she was obviously made me a Starbucks drink, but she was really awesome. We talked music, and I was really excited to see how she was, instead of being this unfortunately cliche jaded music industry personality I've seen a few times on campus. Like, somebody who's willing to talk about their dreams, and like, don't be afraid to like tell people what you guys want. I think that's really huge. Rep what you want to be and don't be afraid of it, but also respect what other people want, because that'll go a long way. But if you go like, let's be at the end of the day, like there are people that will walk around like this weird stuck up, like I'm a college student and I love punk music and screw everybody else, but not realizing like you could learn a lot from people, and those simple conversations would really go a long way. I mean, to be honest, there was somebody that was like, oh my God, this guy looks like a big mean music industry guy. I'm scared of him. I don't want to talk to him. I go to, one of the, how there's a lot of house shows. Him and I end up talking just out of nowhere because we bumped into each other. Ended up being somebody who was so resourceful to me. I ended up doing the internship at Hunt Union. He taught me live music or like live sound, and I was able to teach him live events. And, people put on this persona, but they don't realize like, how you can connect with everyone. So always have those conversations and be willing to talk to those people you see in classes.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So now we're in a pandemic, right? We're in a pandemic. How would you say that has impacted you in terms of networking? Would you say it has benefited you more? Like, even if we weren't in a COVID world, would you say it's right on par? Like, what has COVID had? What kind of effect has that had on you?
I think it's been a happy medium because I do love a lot of in-person work. That is something I stand by. I love people. I'm like the Michael Scott of sales, like where it comes to I love to have in-person conversations. But with that said, I mean, the amount of technology that has come out of this has given us access to people we would have never thought we could have talked to. I mean, no one wanted to hop on a Zoom call with you. Like, who the hell are you? Why do I want to Zoom with you? Now that's so second nature. To be able to get on Clubhouse, talk to these people, I truly believe that's an app that came from the pandemic. I mean, um, being have access to so many people. I mean, I told you guys how I met my girlfriend. I was in a Women in Music live stream panel that one of our alums actually put together. I think Tamima Shamus was a part of it. I might be saying her last name correctly, incorrectly. Apologize ahead of time. But I was able to connect with so many other people there, and I think the pandemic's really helped that. It's also done this thing where it's made people numb to that at this point. So it's like when you get like a DM or an email, it's like ugh. But I think it's this weird happy medium. I also think people are going to appreciate in-person connections a lot more soon. But something I always tell people, and I see this and I'm going to sound like an old man. When you are in person, put that phone down and go have that conversation. You know, don't bug someone, but don't be afraid to get that drink and talk. I think that's getting lost a lot, but show someone that you're actually interested in actively listening. Like if you're like networking and doing this, I don't want to talk to you, but like, we're actually engaging and you're telling me your dreams and opening up. Because like, let's be real. A lot of everybody in this chat are all dreamers. We all came from somewhere that inspired us to get here. And if you're telling somebody that and they're not paying attention, that's going to hurt. So just giving someone that time of day when you do the in-person, but also realizing when you're talking to people networking on social media that they're not just your next step. Like treat them like people and you'll actually get a response.
Yeah. Um, Another question that I had. This kind of goes for the performers in a room in the room. What do you say you look for in a future artist?
Um, so if we look for them, like showing up, really getting there, are they able to handle themselves? And all my artists are different. Like when you're at this level, you're trying to upcoming, you're probably working a job, you're also, some are even balancing kids, family life, but like if you can figure out how to tune all that noise out and be successful and push through that, I think that's great. People that are looking to constantly, like, knowing the business is huge because it makes my job easier, and it also makes you less prone to getting scammed or screwed. But how you represent yourself, how you carry yourself, are you delicate with what you post on social media? Are you just putting something out there? Are you treating your work like something that you actually take pride in, or are you just doing it? For me, I mean, I like working with people that are inspired by their work. I don't want somebody that's just putting out music just to make money. That's a personal preference, though.
Yeah, I think, if you don't put pride into your work, if you're just doing it with the goal of making money, then, you can tell there's no heart there. You can tell there's no, passion behind it. It's just like, all right, I'm going to write this song. I'm going to make, a few bucks off of it and call it a day. It's like, all right, but, there's really nothing there, man.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so let's hop back onto the Oneonta train for a second. Um, Back when you were a freshman, what was the original goal? And then like I know you said once you got the OFest concert chair position, that really made you see what you wanted. But like did you have like what was the original goal when you were a freshman?
So I did a lot of sampling, which meant I did a lot of screwing up because I wasn't really sure. My freshman year when I went to summer academy, I was actually an English major because I thought I loved writing so much. But I had been around music since birth and realized that there was no way I could go without that. So then I wanted to be a Broadway musician for a little while, and I quickly I respect that so much, and I love that, and I still perform to this day when I have the opportunity, and I still feel live. But for me, I realized that was not the route for me, so I had to figure out, like, I was going through this identity crisis sophomore year. I was actually on academic probation. I wasn't doing so well, and I just couldn't figure out what my purpose was on campus until I realized I can still be a part of music and giving people a performance without actually having to do so. And I think that's something people need to remember, is that you can still be a part of these productions and give something to someone, whether you're the artist or you're the actual, the event planner. And that's why I think the most rewarding thing is, for me, it was sitting backstage on the bleachers, like my feet hurt. It's my first concert I worked. I'm like, oh, this is awful. I don't really care for this band that's on. And then I'm looking at everyone's face in the front row, and I'm like, I was a part of this. I helped give this experience. And that's what I love, is giving people experience. So I was actually the performing arts chair of the activities council, and all I want everyone to do is make people happy. I was actually able to really network my way in what's called NACA, National Association of Campus Activities. If anybody doesn't know, the events that you guys have on campus, the people that are part of your activities council, they actually have to go away and for a week and go see a ton of acts. It's really nice, but it's also exhausting. You're just half the time you're sleeping in a chair at the end of the week because you've watched so many comedians go on, or so many acapella groups. But you do a lot of scouting there, and I was actually able to save money as a performing arts chair, where I was able to double that budget and put it into creating a second bus for the Broadway trip. So I don't know if they still do 2 buses or not, but oh, you do? Awesome. So we
Yeah,
originally used to
we
just
did
take.
3 the last time.
Oh, hell yeah. So for a while, they were just doing one, and I'm like, why? All these people pay this activity fee. I'm like, why is it only fair that only 52 get to go on this trip? So I doubled it to 104, because it's just really trying to bring everybody else around me, and that's what I think anyone who's in a leadership position should really focus on. Is there aren't, and if everyone's always looking for experience, everyone's always looking for something to put on their resume. And unfortunately, there aren't that many leadership positions to have. So my second year, when I was on OFES, I made, because you have to apply to the position, it's not just given to you. I made the statement that I was going to bring everybody else around me with me. And anybody else who needed an experience, I talked to all the staff that I had, whether they'd been somebody who was in OFEST or somebody who had been in the music industry club. I asked them, like, what they wanted out of this. What could I help them get? Because I was the leader, and I had the title at that point, so I already was set to go. But how could I help my peers? And I mean, I remember telling the music industry president at the time, like, hey, let's tag team, let's stay backstage with me today. And her eyes lit up. And just being able to give that to your peers, I think, is really important. I mean, I told them to go hand out beach balls at the back of at front of house, and their eyes lit up. And just making sure, I mean, times are tough right now, but making sure you're bringing everybody around with you, that'll go full circle, I promise.
Yeah, and I gotta agree with you. Like, it's such a rewarding feeling seeing other people, just get happy from something that you're doing that you made happen. Because, like, I think honestly, yeah, having your event succeed is one thing, but really, seeing everyone's faces light up at the end of the day, like, that's what really makes it, makes the event succeed, in my opinion. You know.
100%.
So yeah. So another question I had for you, um, this is like a common thing with with music, the music industry in general. How supportive was your family and your friends, when it came to you choosing to go down the path of of music? Because it's different for everyone, and I'm just curious as to what happened with you.
So I'm going to hit you guys with some, like, real life, excuse my language, shit right now. Bleep it out, alumni engagement. But I've done a lot of realization. Me, thankfully, I've always had a family that's like, hey, follow your dreams, but pay your rent, pay your bills, pay your gas. Like, it wasn't really ever a free ride. There was expectations, but it's like, hey, we totally support you. So I was very grateful of that. Especially during my transition phases, but I did have the expectations of being an adult. Um, and but there were those outside noises, like, I go to the family reunions. Oh, you're in music. Huh, there's not a lot of jobs there, huh? So what's really going on? And you just have to tune that out. Like, if music is something you're so serious about, you will tune out the negative vibes, whether it's from your immediate family, whether it's from friends. My friends are like, it's tough because a lot of my friends are not in the music industry, so they just like, oh yeah, Mike's just doing his music thing. They got it, they supported it. And it's tough when you don't exactly have a lot of friends in the music industry. Unfortunately, a lot of mine left. But those that you do have, leaning on them for advice and support are huge. But I will tell you this, as I've realized going on, the music business is not an equal playing field. And you're going to start to look at people around you who are like, why is he getting this? Why is she getting that? Why am I still here? Why didn't I get to get this internship in the state here? And realizing that there's actually a lot of privilege that goes into it. Realizing that there's a lot more people who have opportunities because of, family networking or backgrounding. And, for me, I was like first generation college student that didn't have any of that. And I had to build my own name. And just like, that's why I'm very big on like representing yourself and not having anything that can be any negative press around yourself. But I think when you really start to focus on yourself and just realize like, instead of comparing yourself to other people is when you're going to feel better and feel the most successful. But if you're like, oh, so and so got to had all this money, got to move out to California for this. Well, you're not so and so. What can you do with what you're able to work with? And only compare yourself to other people if there's a way that you can learn from it. Like, okay, that's what they're doing with their resume. That's how they pitched. Okay, that's really cool. This is the festival they're going to. But that just brings me to my point, which I definitely wanted to touch on here, is being prepared for any situation. I mean, like I never really got to go to my parents and be like, oh, hey, can I get like $1,000 to go to this and, rent a car to go to this festival I want to work. I always had to save up, but you guys are at a place where start saving anything you can now. Like, and that goes for life, that goes for your career. Being prepared is always what's going to set you apart from the competition. And just being able to put that money up for that flight, that car, being able to say yes because you have that financial ability. And that's going to take a lot of sacrifice. It's going to take not going to Starbucks. It's going to take like, being restricted with what you go out with. But it's really building yourself in the future. And I mean, that's something I was huge on in my grad program, was learning personal finance and how it could carry over. And at the end of the day, I mean, a lot of you are going to be independent contractors if you're trying to, figure your way out. And, that's something I found tough, is like I wasn't able to afford an internship in New York City. I had to do all of them up in Oneonta and go within my degree programming up there. And that's, something that I disagree with in the program, but it's something I had to work with. But now I was able to save aside where I was like, all right, I'm not going to get paid, I'll get paid like maybe 2,000 after this gig here, but I have like, just this amount to work with my bank account to get to the train and back every day for about 2 weeks. So it's like really just being strict and financial planning. And that's something that I think everybody needs to start looking into for sure at this age.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Um, I have two more questions before I'm gonna ask the audience to, ask some other questions.
Mhm.
So since we've been in, a pandemic, you've been doing some work at home, so how would you say like working from home is like? And I know you're in Nashville now, and you get to be in person there, from time to time. But when you're not there, like how different is it? Like what kind of effect does that have on you? Is it, are you fully okay with it? Is it hard? Yeah.
It has been quite the learning experience. I think being disciplined and keeping a good schedule is super important, because I think, you see it on TikTok all the time or memes on Instagram. Oh, just roll out of bed, open the computer. I think that creates really bad work-life balance. And that was something I've been doing. Like, I'm trying not just to have like, a button up on top and just PJs on the bottom, because like I actually want to feel like I'm there repping myself. Getting, whatever your routine is, and that's the thing, is like I'm in the balancing art and industry room in Clubhouse, and we're talking about people who, they get up and journal every day. They might not have that commute to work, but now they utilize that time to be more effective. I try to find different locations to work out of. So I go to different families' house if I can, because like, at the end of the day, if I'm working from home, I'm looking at my dining room table, I'm like, I don't want to look at my laptop, and I don't want to have that feeling. I don't want to have that. Don't work in bed. I've realized that, like, if you like want to get one of those padded laptop holders like for your couch or something, but like look at that as your place where you just go and be away from that. It's definitely been tough. You want to find that work-life balance, and there's been like a lot of talks about this where it's like now there's more expected of people that are working from home, and you have to set those boundaries for yourself. when you're working from home, both with yourself and your employer, realizing, all right, I clock off at this time. So you also need to be real with yourself and be like, I need to get everything done from here to here and not just slack. Cause it's easy to sit at home and be like, let me open TikTok. Let me, go play with my dog or something. So it's definitely been a journey. And, even when I'm in Nashville, I'll sometimes go in person to the working space just so I can get my mind free, or I'll go to like a community room somewhere just to change it up. I think change of perspective definitely helps out. And like, that's, I don't know if you guys still have the library available to you, but I would always do that. I didn't want to work in my room. I wanted to change that space.
I'm a I'm a big believer in what you said. Like this past summer, I would have meetings with different clients. Like I do wedding DJ stuff on the side. I would have different meetings with potential brides and grooms, and I'd be like, all right, you know what? I could have this meeting in my bed right now, but you know what? Let me actually throw on a flannel. Let me throw on some jeans, and actually go into my basement office area, and actually feel like I'm in a workspace to do this. And it made me feel more productive. It helped with the meeting. I'd say it really gave me that sense like, all right, I'm in a workspace. I'm actually working. I'm not in my house. I'm actually at an office. Like that's what it made me feel like, and I think it does make a difference for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, also like it's tough for some people working at home, but if you can find that good work environment, because if someone like I've had artists that come in for just strategy sessions and they have 1,000 noises going on in the background. I'm like, are you kidding me? Because you're here to have a professional conversation with you and me. And I'm like, okay, I can't hear what you're saying at all. And I think it's just really valuing, think about who's on the other end of the call, like are, value their time, value their energy as well.
Yeah. So my last question, it kind of goes hand in hand with Oneonta and real life now. So stuff you learned at Oneonta, maybe from certain professors, maybe from a certain professor that may happen to be in the room right now, or just any professors in general, like anything they said, has that stuck with you? Like, what have you applied, to your real life now that maybe you learned up here?
I mean, there's going to be times where you're going to learn what you want to take with you and what you don't want to take with you. I didn't end up getting a degree in percussion, but I've learned so much from Dr. Lakata in her work ethic, how she handles people, how to be disciplined. And that's something that I think made me keep coming back. And I'll take that with me. I mean, it's like math class in a way where it's like, let's be real, you're not gonna do y equals mx plus b for the rest of your life, but you're learned your brain was taught how to do problem solving like that. I do think Dr. Nepke's class was really important. I think that's correct me if I'm wrong, music industry majors. I think that's legal issues. Yeah. I would have preferred to see that in a two-part course, but it's very relevant because there's a lot of people out there that are breaking copyright laws and they don't know it. And that's where you can step in. And and I always say knowledge is power. The more knowledge you have in a situation, the more you're going to be able to control it better and have the better outcome or keep learning. It's definitely a class that like definitely grinds you on the way out, but I think it's really important. Dr. Pignato's music industry communications course, definitely, good one that can bust your chops, but definitely a really great resource. But I think really getting to know your professors and what they have to offer, like, if there's a professor you don't know much about, whether if you think it'll find value or not, go have that conversation with you. I will always say this. I think our professors and our instructors in this program are highly underrated. They come with such great backgrounds. People like know them from so many different areas, and there's so much you can learn from them. And if, they see something in you that you're trying to learn and build a relationship with you, they're going to help you out. But if you're just going to be like the person that just decides to be the fly on the wall and never contribute, you're not going to get your name out there. And I think that's big. And I mean, whether it be a performance professor, whether it be, somebody that's just industry related, it's huge. I mean, I unfortunately never got to have Professor Tar for a class, but she was my internship coordinator and I learned so much from her and stayed connected. And you got to look at your professors as part of your network. they're not just there. I mean, let's be real. Professors do not get paid enough. I'm sure, I don't know if somebody will cut this out of this recording here, but it's true. They're here because they truly care. And, definitely build that relationship with them. They're educators that want to see you perform. Do they push you a little bit, bust your chops? Absolutely. I'm not saying, everybody's the greatest, but you do definitely have a good roster of resources out there that can help you. And I think that's just really something to look forward to. And also, like, look at the other resources on campus. I mean, look at the communications. There's so many different parts that go into the music industry. The business courses, build these relationships, have that conversation, and represent your brand. Have these conversations on your way out. It never hurt to talk to anybody and learn something.
Yeah, I agree. And Mike, thank you again so much for coming to do this, man. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
If anyone has any questions, please feel free to pop your hand up or write your questions in the chat.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So I'm like really interested in like artist management and like just marketing. Just like you were talking about like doing like different projects and stuff with them or campaigns, I think was the word. So a big part of like what I've been like trying to do is like I just network with like other like student artists and I'm just like, hey, like do you mind if I like, or they like ask me to like just like manage their Instagram and like just like little things like that. So do you have any like advice on how to like, I guess like create like a voice or like a good like how to like express yourself on social media where like people will take you seriously, I guess? Because I've just found it really hard.
Oh, for sure. I mean, because I'm one that says if you're pushing too hard, you're not going to get any results. So, I mean, we actually, so when we go off the campaigns, we really base off what the artists are doing musically, artistically, and does it flow. But we also, I think the harder you try to be someone you're not is when it becomes way more difficult. And that's why we actually we really push authenticity. Like, we want to know who the artists are outside the music. And that's really actually for our branding purposes as well. So I actually, I had a strategy session with an up and coming hip hop artist who is big in the yoga field. And like, he's standing out more in yoga than he is hip hop because now he is in the yoga magazines as the hip hop artist versus just like some Billboard magazine or something where he's just going to be washed away. But I think, finding that voice, being unique, but without trying too hard, because fans and consumers will read through that very quickly. If that's who you are, that's great. But don't push too hard, but also be yourself. There are definitely tactics of being unique. Don't get me wrong, like creative tactics in terms of songwriting. Definitely don't be afraid to take risks, but don't do something that's realistically you did for, I guess, clout or fame. Do it because you felt like that was your artistic expression. And I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I just find like trouble like balancing like putting out a personality, but also like being like, no, like seriously, like listen to my music.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess just like finding that balance where like you're showing who you are, like that's like the most important part, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, if the artist can also be able to interact and show that on social media, like, whether it be behind the scenes. And I think, like, one of my favorite bands is AJR. And where I really got to know AJR was their behind the scenes, like, tour footage, who they really were and how they were with their fans. And I think if you can somehow show that behind the scenes of artists, that goes a long way.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Of course, great question, and feel free to connect with me like past this offline. I'd love to stay connected with anybody who's looking to go down that line.
Cool,
Yeah.
thanks.
Mike, I was going to ask if people wanted to connect with you, what's the best way? If they could get your email or whatever. Like if you want to drop your email in the chat
Yeah,
for networking. Yeah.
absolutely.
While you're doing that, Mike, I don't know if you heard yet, but we're doing a virtual SUNY-wide concert, and our opening act is AJR.
Oh, so it was announced. My sister's actually finishing up at Cortland right now, and she told me about that. I'm so jealous.
Yeah, we have AJR as the opener and Kesha as the headliner.
Oh gosh, what a combo.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, definitely lucky. It's unfortunate how the current times are, but AJR also just released a new album, and that's super exciting.
Yeah.
Definitely, and like those are all musicians that went to school first, got their degrees, and was able to apply it to what they're doing now. You guys can also, I think this is okay because I use it for work. I'm gonna put my Instagram on here. Let's talk. Push any work I'm out doing with artists. If you guys have anything going on, I'm always sharing everyone's work.
I don't
Oh,
know if I got
actually,
posted to the chat.
I sent it to Jordan App by accident because I think she sent me something by accident.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also,
you sent it to me. Because I asked you to share, you mentioned that playlist that you were starting to make of like the songs of the artists you're meeting and stuff. So I was like, hey, you should share that,
Yeah. There's my email, and then I'll put my Instagram in. I'll be honest, personally, right now I'm considering just making a Framsta, I'm calling it, instead of a Finsta, where I have just a friends and family Instagram, because it's like, to the point where I'm doing a lot of my networking, and, even my whole job follows me on Instagram, and it's like, do I just want a place where I can just have my personal connections with? So, not a bad idea. But also with that said, if you know that's happening, definitely rep yourself. I have all my artists, they have to do a spring cleaning task where they go in and like, okay, is this good to represent my brand with? Does this make me look good?
hmm does anybody else have any other questions? Also, if you're Mike, I don't know if I told you I'm head of student talent for this virtual SUNY Fest.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I have to get the student talent representative from all the SUNY schools participating. So anybody here that's trying to go for that, it's due by midnight. um, so
Guys, definitely do it. I've seen so many good acts be successful and walk out as openers from college concerts.
hey, you get to say you open for AJR and Kesha.
Yeah, it's huge.
So yeah, if anybody else has any other questions for Mike, feel free to pop your hand up or just unmute and go ahead.
We can talk about anything, guys.
Anything.
Ask me what I had for lunch.
What's your favorite pizza topping?
We actually just had margarita pizza for lunch.
Nice.
I have a quiz question.
Let's do it.
Do you remember what drink you ordered?
Oh, absolutely, because it's the only drink I ever get from Starbucks. It's a strawberry frappuccino, and I might have gotten Java chips with it.
I think that you thanked me because you said that it was so good, but actually I didn't know how to make that drink yet, so somebody else made it. But
now
I delivered it with care.
You did. Now I'm going to ask you a question. What year are you, and what do you plan to do after?
I'm a senior. I think I'm graduating in the summer. I need an internship credit for the summer. Just one more. I want to somehow get into the touring circuit. I am interested in tour management, etc. So, like that area of the stuff. I really want to be in live music.
That's awesome. And there's so many resources, like, and, going back to what the pandemic started, I don't know if you've heard of Tour Management 101. Yeah, so and if anybody's looking to get into live music touring, Tour Management 101 is really great. It's basically like an online class that's been where some of the best tour managers in the world meet, I think, once a week, and they do a video. I don't even know what to call it. Just do a video chat between all of them. They have special guest speakers, and they really talk about like so many different lessons in touring. I think that's a good place to really network and connect with those professionals there. Unfortunately, New York's gonna be a little bit tough with live music for the next year or two. But utilizing the VIP circuit there, and going and meeting these people, and staying connected will definitely be a good way to get yourself on a tour. So I think, just showing up and working live music and keeping connected with people at events will be super helpful. But it's a fun time. I've toured twice. It can be very exhausting, but it's something that's definitely rewarding for sure.
Anybody else got any other questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead, whoever that was. AJ, go ahead, bud.
So I'm a freshman at SUNY Oneonta, And I was planning on after college to move to LA and become like a music artist. Do you have any advice for that?
I mean, I'm not in the LA, I guess, network or even region right now, but I will tell you this. I mean, if that's something you want to do, start saving, start building those relationships now, do your research, because it's more than just being an artist. Right now, it's where you're going to live, what you're going to do in the meantime, for you, that income to help. And that's a great goal. Don't get me wrong, and don't let anything I'm saying shy you away from that, but do your research, for like what's going to sell out there, how you're going to get out there. Start planning that now. And if you have that goal now, that's great. Also be willing to adapt. I mean, sometimes, that's about what, close to 4 years now for you. There's a lot of things that could change. Be willing to change that goal, or critique it in certain ways. But if anybody has any large goals like that, where that sounds like a dream you're chasing, and that's amazing, but start listing out the micro goals of how you're going to get there. And I think that's really important. That's something I really took away from grad school, is like, look at your goals as a pyramid. Like, here's your goal you're trying to accomplish, but here is everything else you need to get to. Make yourself a marketable artist. Start building that brand now. There's so many opportunities to really start becoming a great artist in college. So start getting that now. Start saving that money. Start doing that research, talking to people who are out there that have done that. We have a bit of grads that have gone out to LA that are thriving out there. Talk to alumni engagement. They will gladly put you in contact with them.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, and good luck with that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm so sad we didn't hear from Julie Licata today.
I know. Anyone else?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
So I just graduated in December, and right now I'm working at Universal Music Group, just
Awesome.
at Bravado International. So I'm helping out with brand management and digital advertising. But I'm kind of just wondering, like, what is the best way to reach out to people? Like, they might be like related, or just like would be able to help you out in your career, but it would be a total cold reach out. Like, what
are you talking about
ways to go about that?
I'm sorry, are you talking about on behalf of an artist or behalf of yourself to grow in your career?
On behalf of myself, to grow my career.
I mean, you guys got to look at it like interviewing. And this is something that you can't get discouraged with, is you're going to send out 80 applications and probably get maybe 10 answers back. And that goes for everyone. That goes for artists, that goes for professionals. Don't let that get you discouraged. But something I think that's really helpful is templating. If you're trying to connect with somebody, just have a general template lined up where you're going to go change certain things, their name, date, but building that rapport. LinkedIn's huge. Once you get, me personally, I'll say I need to fix up my LinkedIn for sure. But, I see a lot of people find some really great jobs on LinkedIn, be able to connect, and you just have access to them right there. Figuring out how companies plan their emails out. Once you have one person's email, like, mine's like mmorales@agdentertainment.com. So it's like, okay, I have another coach who's Lauren Heilman. So I'm like, okay, L Heilman at AGD, and you'll be able to reach out to these people. But also realize when you're pitching to somebody, it's a two-way street. You're asking something of them, but you need to be able to offer something to them. And just figuring that out. And I think that's awesome. Like, you're somebody who you just said graduated like last year and you're coming back for like educational value. I do that too. And I think that's awesome. So your mind's definitely in the right space, and congrats. That's also a really great company to be working at. But just like, keeping yourself in that good light, researching, and like for something I've been doing like now is, and anybody who's looking to get jobs, pay attention to the Facebook groups. There's music industry career networking group that's big. There's event groups, touring groups. You might not be in a space where you're ready to apply for a job, but if you see someone's like, hey, email me at this, that, take that email down because you might need that later. And they're not always easy to find. So get that information now. Oh, I'm looking to fill this position. Okay, I have a job here, or I haven't graduated yet. Get that information now. Start building that database for you to reach out to. And no doesn't mean you're not good or anything. No just means they might not be ready for you. There's actually somebody I beat out for my position that came back and took the entry level spot, and now she's with the company training to be where I am. And keep coming back. Write those thank you letters. Personalize what you're doing.
Cool. Thanks. And I guess as an artist too, since you mentioned that as well, like would you just say it's generally the same thing?
I guess it depends on where you're going. I mean, a lot of it is that pitching, refining that pitch. A lot of times, like my artists are pitching to people, doing a lot of cold pitches. In terms of social media following, though, we're really pushing hashtag research where they'll go in and connect with people that are relevant. So for their following, we'll put them in, I'm like, hey, who's an artist that inspired you? Oh, John Legend. I'm like, all right, next time John Legend goes in somewhere, go into his comment section, post, say, oh my gosh, writing my music, is really, John Legend's work has just really inspired my sound. And it's being passive about it. Like, don't do the whole Barstool sports. I'm a 16-year-old rapper that just dropped out of college. Please help me and send me money. Like, just be passive about the pitch and humble. And I see a lot of artists from Oneonta come through with that. Where it's, you present what you're working on, but without shoving it in someone's face. Like, don't go sending your music to someone right away. And because it can be seen pushy, but on the other part, like if you don't know someone that well and you haven't released music yet, that is your artistic creation you need to protect. Do not just go sending that to anyone you don't know. And I had to have that talk with an artist. I had a strategy session with them. Like, hey, listen, thank you so much. You sound amazing, but you have no idea who the heck I am. And you've just sent me your whole catalog that you haven't released yet. You got to protect that at all costs, because unfortunately there are people that will steal from that.
Yeah, 100%. Hopefully nobody does that in here though.
No, definitely the Oneonta is a good place for protecting each other, and I hope everybody stands by that and keeps that moral creed behind it.
Yep, thank you. Appreciate it.
Of course. And don't, feel free to connect.
Yeah, I'll definitely send you an email right after this.
Awesome.
Any other questions, guys? Feel free to just unmute and say something if you want. Give it another few seconds. How's Dan's studio?
It's actually really fun. He's in he's in the corner on the ground. I'm like, where'd he go? No, he's got a really good setup. Yeah, I love it. I mean, I'm probably gonna come steal it when I come down here for a little bit, steal some time with my cajon, because I live in an apartment right now. I'm sure my neighbors don't want to hear that.
Nice.
I actually just recorded my own theme song for my podcast I'm coming up with. Yeah, so speaking of reaching out to artists, by the way, just make sure, like, if anybody's ever looking to reach out to somebody who's like, at a higher level, use your Instagram story. I have gotten in contact with so many artists by doing so, because it's like they'll see you tagged it and then you can see the scene. Like, okay, now I have access to their DMs. I just interviewed an artist that was on The Voice that we're gonna have on our show. But yeah, I've been able to connect with so many people. So like, really utilize your Instagram and reach out to people.
Make sure you guys go listen to his podcast once that comes out too.
Yeah, I'll
put a little shameless plug in there. Go ahead.
The Mikey Mo Show. Oh my gosh, and like, be kind to yourselves when you guys are working on creative projects. I'm working mine through Zoom. I mean, I was using a cordless, not cordless, just a mic, external mic. I went through the first 10 minutes without recording the interview, and it was my first one. I was nervous, but it's thankfully the artist was also very understanding. It was her first interview too, and she was super nervous, super cool about it. But also like be willing to build a team and invite people into your vision. I mean, luckily my marketing coordinator is somebody who's looking to do social media coordinating. The production coordinator is somebody that's really looking to add to their catalog for sound that they've edited. So I mean, invite people into your vision that are like-minded, but also can challenge you and push you in different ways. I think that's super important. And find out what your creative rituals are, no matter if you're a musician or you're just somebody that's just looking to curate. It's super important. A book I found really influential to my growth is Originals by Adam Grant. I really recommend anybody who's looking to find their creative rituals and habits to check that book out. I do not like reading, but it is a very good and easy read.
So Bailey said she'll put the podcast on the mic Instagram. So
Get it out as soon as possible.
If there's no other questions, speak now or forever. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have one more thing to add, just for you, Mike. Since it seems like you do a lot of Instagram, well, at least research or just utilize hashtags to interact with people. There's a Google Chrome extension. It's called $80, like $1, and then 80, like 80 cents. And basically what it does, you select 10 hashtags, well, up to 10 hashtags, up to 10 locations, and up to 10 profiles to target. And then within the app, it'll like populate all the posts from those different targets. And you can just like comment within the platform, and it'll save like your past comments. So if you wanted to just like select like some old comments you already used, then kind of just like recycle some old responses and things like that. It just really simplifies that whole interaction process on Instagram, without really getting sucked into the content and like the app itself. It's just like very basic looking and isn't as flashy as actually going on Instagram. So that might be helpful to you. I don't know. I was just throwing it out there.
No, that's really awesome. If you wouldn't mind when you do send me that follow-up email, please send that to me. That's really useful. And that's why I like dialogue like this. I mean, I came here to speak to you guys, but I'm also learning things as well. And I think that's what everybody needs to remember moving forward. Is like you can always learn from anybody, regardless of their age. I'm getting valuable information from all of you as well. And that's what, definitely keep that Oneonta community going, because I'm so grateful that you've just shared that with me. And if I can leave you guys with anything, is stay connected as an alumnus or alumnus, because there's so many opportunities out there. They're really trying to expand. I had no idea there's a national music, just Oneonta networking group that's out here. There's a ton of stuff that is offered. So definitely stay connected. But yeah, that's really awesome. And I'm not sure if anybody heard that. If you could like just share that to Frank as well, so he could send it to everybody, because that's really valuable information.
Sure. Yeah, and hopefully I don't get pushed out of these chats. Like hopefully I don't get too old that I can't come onto the Zooms and the meetings with Oneonta students.
Zai, you're always welcome. Don't worry.
And keep those communities,
Yeah,
guys.
hopefully.
I I unfortunately didn't get to watch as much of them because of my work schedule, but a lot of those were my friends that were on there, and we still stay connected. I mean, and be forward. Like, don't be afraid. Like Frank showed up to an alumni hang one night, and everyone's like, "Who the heck is this kid?" For the Drumline, but he was able to connect with them. They all know who he is, and stay connected. Don't be afraid to come back. And I came back and spoke to students for networking events. Because there is value that you can learn from everyone and anyone. So that's really awesome that you've come in, and I'm going to do the same thing. Keep coming to these types of chats.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course.
All right. Well, I think that's it. Mike, thank you so much. Everybody give a round of applause for Mike. Thank you. I'm gonna ask you to stay on after everybody hops off. But guys, thank you all for coming. Next week is the last week of this. We're having Tyler Burke from D'Addario. He specifically represents Evans and Promark, and he might be bringing an artist? Question mark, possibly. But we'll see. I'll have more info on that. I'll post that in the mic group me. So yeah, thank you guys for coming, and catch you next week.
Definitely come for Evan. He's a freaking savage, and he is big in the music industry. I hope to catch that episode or whatever we're calling this myself.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Take care, guys.
Thank
Good luck with
you.
everything. Of course.
Thank you.
Okay, let me